Today, we're going to be talking about operating an RF bank in the United States in light of what we've done at the Bank of Whittier. And actually, you all should be proud of to become part of this experiment of operating a new brand of banking, which is what we call the Bank of Whittier, and call it AKA, or also known as the Bank of America. And I just want to stress the fact that, you know, there is no riba-free influenza, and there is a riba influenza. There is only one influenza. There is no Asian influenza. There is no African influenza. There is no American influenza. There is only one influenza. But the way to handle the influenza is what makes the difference. And that's essentially the whole idea behind operating the bank, as you will see. It is not the rules and laws and regulations. It is the way you handle the bank, the philosophy behind the bank, the culture that you build in the bank and in the institution that you want to build. And the difficult part is not really building the culture, but the difficult part is to maintain the culture, because you can develop a culture amongst the different participants or members of the family, but then that culture gets to be diluted over the years. So, like I say, we have started a movement in 1987 in a very humble way that has grown to be a significant participant in the world of riba-free financing. And we are, for the first time, producing a first generation of riba-free bankers. That's each and every one of you. I'm privileged, I am honored to be associated with each and every one of you. Many of you were never been in RF banking, but now they are members of that particular effort, and I look forward to seeing you flourish and become more successful. The question is, what is the added value of an RF banker? The most important added value of an RF banker is the ethics of what is allowed and what's forbidden. You know, there are so many ways that you can justify charging a customer more fees. There are so many ways that are justified to really take advantage of your customer. As you all know, dealing with different providers in the market, but there is this inside you feeling that will prompt you to say, no, that's not right, no, that should be wrong, and no, I will not participate in doing what's wrong. And this is what I call divinely allowed and divinely disallowed. Divinely, because it has been ordered by a higher authority, and divinely also because your conscience will never allow you to participate in taking advantage of your customers. And that brings in the most important value in what we do. We are not in the business of tricking customers. And if you don't believe me, I promise you, I have been in training programs on sales and marketing in large investment banking organizations and banking organizations, where the trainer teaches the participants on how to make a decision that must be to the best of their advantages. So we are actually out to know our customers, to serve our customers, and serve all people. Now, if you compare what we do to the others in the competition of the Islamic banking domain, you will find that La Riba and Bank of Whittier are the only participants that serve all people of all faiths. So we're not only targeting the Muslim community like others do, we are serving everybody. The Jewish community, the Christian community, the Muslim community, people of all backgrounds. We serve churches, synagogues, Islamic centers, temples, and more. The third thing is a deep-seated belief that RF financial services are available to all community members of all faith without discrimination. So we do not discriminate because ethically and consciously discrimination is something that is not only illegal in the United States, but it is punishable by a higher authority according to the Judeo-Christian values that we all believe in, and Buddhist values that we all believe in, and Hindu values that others can believe in. The next added value is the full transparency proved by full disclosure as required by the United States law, but it is also characterized by a number of factors. RF banking, this is very important to know, is asset service-based financing. In other words, if somebody comes and says, I want to have an unsecured loan, we don't do that anymore. And those of you who are participating in the credit providing loans know that the biggest problems that come to the loan department are loans which are unsecured credits. Now, the next thing is that we are socially responsible bankers. By socially responsible means it is not important to us how much money you have. What is important to us is where this money was earned from. Is it money that was earned from activities that we think is socially responsible? I'll give you an example. Check cashing organizations, or the day loan organization, or organizations that cash checks for poor people who don't have enough income to open a bank account. We do not open accounts for them. Liquor stores, we don't open accounts for them. Gambling, casinos, other illegal activities. People that made their money in a promiscuous way that cannot fit our social responsibility and our social and ethical values, we do not open accounts for. I remember when we took over the management of the Bank of Whittier, we had an account for a nightclub in Whittier. We had an account for 2 liquor stores in Whittier. We had an account of a person who was involved in gambling and pawning and so on and so forth. And all of these accounts were closed. Not only because they don't fit our social responsibility, but actually because they were the source of, the liquor store person always gave us problems. The person that had the nightclub always gave us problems. The real uniqueness of what we do, because other bankers can talk about, we are socially responsible, we are a green bank, and so on and so forth, but no bank that I know of evaluates projects based on the 2 important disciplines that we discussed in Chapter 3. And these are marking the market and the commodity indexation rules. And I also believe that it is a human right that has to be provided for those who can have the capacity to pay it back. So we are not in the market to dig a deeper hole of debt for people. We are in the market to help them achieve their dreams within their abilities and within their capacities to pay back. And we offer lower risk loans and better return on investment for those who invest with us. Now, I'd like to speak about something that is soft and you cannot put your hands on it, and that is that everybody feels like a family. And I make it a point to ask those who come and visit us, be it visitors, people who provide us services through vending and so on and so forth, or even candidates who come for an interview. After they meet every one of you, I ask them, so how did it go? The consistent response, either at La Riba or at the bank, is I get the feeling that this is happening, and I would like to see it this way for many generations to come. I hope that this wonderful feeling of a family will stay with you even when we become 10,000 in employment, even when we become 50,000 in employment, because this is what makes the difference. We are not out to cut each other's throat competing for a position. We're not out to trick others so I can be better looked upon by management than others. We're all a member of one family, trying to do the best we can for a better future in our organization and the people that we serve. The second thing is that we provide unique services, that we do not look at a customer as a number. And I know that I'm sure each and every one of you has a bank account in another bank. And those of you who come to do business with the Bank of Whittier, they will attest to the fact that this is a different bank. They deal with me as a member of my family. They care about me. They want to know who I am, how many children do I have, who is my husband, who is my wife, and so on and so forth. And the other thing is that when we sit down and evaluate an application for a loan, we look at that loan, but look at the total situation of the customer to make sure that this loan fits with their family profile and history profile. And through this, we are making a difference and we're adding a value. And the most important value is prudence in investing. Prudence in investing means that when you buy a home, it should make economic sense. Now, we also split the banking operation at the Bank of Whittier into two activities, what we call the private banker and the credit analyst, or the private banking department and the credit analysis department. Now, I know that Wells Fargo and Bank of America and others are using the term private bankers. And if you go and talk to the people who are private bankers at these institutions, you will find that they are high school graduates or maybe high school dropouts with a quick training, and their most important goal is to sell and cross-sell to the customers as much as possible. As a matter of fact, I know from the training program at Wells Fargo that the private bankers who come and talk to you are evaluated on how much mutual funds they sell to the customers. It's a sales-oriented organization. Our private bankers are trained differently. They are trained to serve the customer. They are trained to become the real advisors of the customers, not only on financial matters, but also on life matters. In the credit analysis department, we actually do thorough credit analysis. And I want to tell you that in other organizations, when they do the analysis, they use standard computer programs where you put in the information on the loan, and the program would crunch the calculations and come back with an approval rating. Actually, very close to the DU and LP programs that you use in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So actually, banks have the same kind of type of programs whereby you put in the information and you come up with an approval. We do not do it this way. We go through each loan on a case-by-case basis. We do the cash flow analysis in a very thorough way. And I'm sure now that our credit analysis representatives, Daniel and Wilson and Alex, after dealing with the underwriters at La Riba, Mustafa and Fatah Sukar, now they can get an appreciation of the detailed nature of what we do. Now, on the credit department, it is very important to understand that we are all cultured with an important value, and that is we are not in the business of renting money. We look at the customer's total situation and not only at this particular loan. As a matter of fact, and Alex knows, and Daniel, and Wilson, and Mohammed, and Mike Abdelati, they all know the kind of feedback we get from our reviewer weekly and also our OCC examination officers that come and examine us. They are most impressed by the quality of the memos that are written in support of a certain loan application. Because it is not only, and I invite you, those who have not seen the memos that are written at the Bank of Whittier, I invite you to review them and read them. They're not only doing the regular run-of-the-mill analysis, but they do the analysis of the industry, a thorough analysis of changes in the industry, different sensitivity analysis to make sure what happens if something wrong happens in the loan. So we invest our time in doing analysis, and that is the added value at the bank. And when we do this, we don't do it only to protect the bank. We do it to protect the customer as much as we protect the bank. Now, the advantage of having to split the private banker away from the credit analyst is very interesting, because we want the private banker to be on the side of our customer. He will be the advocate of our customer. So when the customer comes with a loan, the private banker will be representing him to the credit department. And the credit department will take the staunch, hard-nosed, good analysis approach to make sure that this makes sense. So if the loan is disapproved, if the loan is declined, then it is not the problem of the private banker, but it is the problem of the loan. And when the private banker brings the news to the customer, then the relationship between the private banker and the customer is not hampered, is not affected, because the ones who decline are actually the private banker. And we also found out from our experience that the best credit application is the credit application that is cultivated and developed by the private banker, not the credit that comes to our desks ready to be financed. And I can attest to you, Mike can tell you how much work we have been doing here in Dallas to develop one loan, just one loan, and how much pushing to get documents, how much analysis we do to make sure that when we approve a loan, then we make the right decision. What is the discipline that we used in RF banking? So the first thing we have is we do not accept brokered deposits and brokered loans. We don't deal with brokers. As a matter of fact, the secret of our lower cost lending is that we don't deal with brokers, be it on the loan side or on the deposit side. Rashida gets calls every once in a while from loan brokers who want to, deposit brokers who want to bring deposits to the bank and make a little commission, and we say we do not deal with brokers. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you know the program called CDARS. CDARS is a program that allows customers to come in and deposit money in our bank that's FDIC insured up to $50 million. It was pronounced by the FDIC as a broker deposit program. And since that time, we have lowered our deposits in the CDARS program from $11.5, $12 million to what it is today, about $3 million. And the $3 million are there just to actually meet the needs of our customers who have been loyal customers for a long number of years. We are in the business to cultivate, develop, analyze, and originate credit transactions with the purpose of participating in the success, prosperity, and growth of the community. And that's what we do. We give priority to the community. We gather our deposits from the community. They have to be reinvested back in the community. And the best source of customer, and this is something that we haven't really done a lot on, the best customers that you seek are the customers that are depositing their money with you. And we need to do much more work to look in our book and see who are the customers we have and what are their needs. Do they need to finance their homes? Do they need to refinance their homes? And this is something that we still have not consistently done. And frankly, the weakest link in what we do at the bank or Lariba is how to do business development efficiently. And I hope that will change in the next few months to a much better future. Now, let's focus on the credit analyst. The credit analysts that we hire are not people who know how to add and subtract. They are not people who know how to push buttons on a computer program, but they are proven, excellent analysts because they were handpicked from the high grade point average achievers at the universities. And we have made it a point that when we recruit, what do we recruit for, Alex? What kind of GPA?
3.8.
Huh?
3.8 above.
3.75 and above, especially for credit analysts. We have lowered the grade point average a little bit to try to attract more people to come in the operations area as training for tellers. And we lowered it to 3.5. And we want to make sure that we attract the best achievers on campus. Now, why do we focus on high grade point average? Because students who achieve high grade point average are actually reflecting in their character behavior that they are responsible students. They are people that study hard. Now, I realize that there are people who have a high IQ and others who have lower IQ. And that has nothing to do with the grade point average. Because the ones with a high IQ, it will take him probably half an hour to study a certain thing, which will take 2 or 3 hours with a person with a low IQ. But getting the grade point average of 3.75 and higher is an indication of responsibility, is an indication of reliability, is an indication of conscientiousness. And I taught over the years to many people, and consistently, people who get good grades at the university are conscientious people. When they make a mistake, they always are very, very sensitive about why they made this mistake and they want to make it. Our goal as credit analysts is to conduct the thorough analysis to protect the interest of the customer and the bank. And it is very important to know that the RF credit analyst is trained to protect the customer, not only the bank. The RF bank staff also is trained in the business of financing and not renting money. We do not calculate how much, and I want the credit department to tell me this. When we do the analysis, do we ask ourselves how much is the income going to have an impact on the profitability of the bank? We never do that. We just look at the analysis in abstract to make sure that when we approve a loan, that loan will be a good loan. Now, how much is going to contribute to the profitability of the bank? That's income with the package. Now, how do we do the training? And this is something that is very unique to the Bank of Whittier, and this is the Bank of Whittier Open University. And I know that some from La Riba attended the training program, and as we look in the future, we'll do the same program at La Riba. The university has 2 sessions, one every 6 months, where we do not only teach the regulations. And I want to tell you this. I have been in large mega banking organizations, and I've attended training, and all we had to do is sit down in a video session and sign our name and leave. That was it. That's all is needed. But at the Bank of Whittier Open University, we make sure that we live the experience. Not only go through the required training videos, but we want to give you the background on what banking is. We want to give you the background on what monetary theory is, how money works, how money is created, the Federal Reserve System. And we keep drilling it into you such that in the future, one day, God willing, you will be one of the teachers. We teach all the banking regulations. We also give hands-on training on some of the most important operating issues in banking to satisfy the requirements of the United States government. And then we teach the family culture. And the family culture that we teach is a culture that has to do with a number of factors. One important thing, for instance, is that we are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. We do not use foul language. We do not call people by nicknames like other organizations do. We focus on mutual respect. And let me underline this, mutual respect. Because if we respect each other, then what we produce will reflect that respectability, which will be a reflection of how we respect each other. The Bank of Whittier culture, if you see a problem, we don't look who did this problem. We fix the problem. You own this problem. If you see a piece of paper on the floor, you don't wait until the cleaners come and clean it because it's not my job. We clean it because you found the problem, you solved the problem. And that is the kind of culture that we keep in our family. We are socially responsible. I think we discussed that. And then we teach concentration, how your attention can be diverted away from what is important by not focusing on what you do. For instance, we make sure that when you deal with a customer, you do not talk on the phone. When you board data on the computer, you do not do it while you are on the phone chit-chatting on another subject, because your concentration is taken away, and for sure you will be making a mistake. We also teach dual controls, that anytime you speak to a customer, how many should be on the phone, Rashida?
2.
There have to be 2 people on the phone, because then they will witness to each other as what went through the conversation. Part of our culture. After each telephone conversation, what do? Maria?
We confirm it by email.
We confirm it by email and copy of the email in the file to make sure that it's all documented. Because this way, we have everything documented. If we speak to a customer on the telephone, we even write down in a piece of paper, I spoke to him on such and such day, at such and such time, and we discussed this, and you drop it in the file. And I promise you, you will find this to be very, very valuable. And then the thing which is dearest to my heart, and that is finger reading. I know that some may not think that this is important, but I promise you, if you discipline yourself to use your finger, reading each and every letter of what you read, you will, number one, be a very fast reader. Number two, you will concentrate on what you do. And number three, you will be a very, very good person because you know what you have read. Now, people like Endal right now. Endal is holding a book in his hands and looking at it. But the people that actually read with their fingers, They have full concentration. They lay the book on the table and they put their finger on each and every letter. And I promise you will find out that you never forget what you read. And then how to make sure that you know what's happening in your organization. Let me tell you, when we came in this organization in July 2003, we had lots of fun. For instance, we had a balance sheet that had 123 bank control accounts. Every time the chief financial officer could not balance the books, he would make an entry to make it balance, force balance the books, and take the money and hide it in a bank control account. We ended up having about $300,000 that he could not balance. And it created a lot of nightmares. Why? Because nobody knew what was going on in the financial statement. And that's why at La Riba, every morning at 9 o'clock, light prayers. And at the Bank of Whittier, every morning at 9:30, we go through the financial ledger, assets, liabilities, income and expense statement, line by line, number by number, to make sure that we know what happened the night before, and identify problems, identify non-posts, identify mistakes. Then we can fix them immediately and right away. And then at 9:45, in the case of La Riba, it is at 9:30. At the case of the bank, it's 9:45. We go through the delinquencies, all the accounts that have not paid, to make sure that they are called, make sure that we send in emails, to make sure that we go after them until we make the collection in time. And then at 11 o'clock, to really crown all of this stuff, this is at the bank now, at 11 o'clock, we have another operations meeting to make sure that every activity in the operations is accounted for, to make sure that people that were NSF or non-sufficient funds, they came and they covered their lack of funds. We make sure that entries are made right, make sure that wire transfers are accounted for. This way, the bank always is dealing with each other, talking to each other, forming this wonderful feeling of one family that knows what's going on. It is not a 9-to-5 job, and that's the culture of what we call RF banking. Then we come to recruiting, and I think the recruiting we do at the Bank of Whittier is the fruits of at least 25 years of experience of yours truly in the business of recruiting. Because I had the privilege from God that I used to recruit for Atlantic Richfield, which was a major oil company owned now by British Petroleum. I used to have 20 recruiters under me who actually were drawn out from the engineering staff and geologist staffs and so on and so forth, who went out and recruited at Harvard, at MIT, at Wisconsin, at SMU, and some of the top universities. I had the honor of being the recruiter on Harvard and MIT campus and the campus of Madison, Wisconsin. Now, what is the strategy of recruiting? The strategy is, we had two choices when we started the bank. One choice was to hire away an experienced banker to come and work for us. And we call them stealing a prima donna from a bank to come and work with us. Actually, people would send their resume and it will tell you that I'm looking for a job and I can bring you my book of loans of 10 million or 15 million. And this is really how most of the banks hire loan officers, hire business development managers, hire bankers, and so on and so forth. I had the pleasure of interviewing these people. And here's how I looked at it. I said, if this person is selling his organization to come and take another job and bring his book with him, I am sure in 2 or 3 years' time, that person will do the same to me. If your ethics allows you to put yourself for sale, guess what? You will always be for sale. So today, I'm going to sell to Bank A, and after 3 years of Bank A, I will go to Bank B and bring my portfolio. until the end. So we decided that this is not the kind of culture that we want to participate in. We're going to rely on our important pillars, the ones with the banking background that we have in our organization. We have Mike, we have others, and then bring in fresh graduates with very high grade point average who can be trained from scratch to become first-class bankers. The only disadvantage of this strategy is that it takes time. It takes time to train, it takes time to cultivate, it takes time to reap the fruits of these candidates. And that actually is a strategy that we followed, and that is a strategy that's paying off today. You will find some of the finest bankers who have been trained in what we call the University of the Bank of Whittier. And not only this, but those who excel in what we do, then we can send them to get higher degrees. We see the rising stars in, for instance, Wajiha, who is doing a fantastic job. Dan Hendon, fantastic job. And Zakia, I hope, inshallah, she will do a fantastic job, and Endal and Fasika. And all these wonderful men and women, as we chart a wonderful future, God willing, we're going to have a wonderful, successful future. Now, those who are good, we also support them to get an MBA so we can increase the quality of our staff. Now, why are we doing this? Because if you surround yourself with young people, vivid, who are energetic, who are of the highest value, guess what? I promise you, you will have an organization that's always going to be up and higher in the world. As I told one of our associates a few days ago, I said, you need to train people around you to make sure that they do your job. Because if they know how to do your job, then you can go higher and do a better job in a better activity. If you don't do that, there will be nothing. You have no support underneath you, and you will always go down. And I hope that's not what we do. Now, the interview process is also a very unique interview process by the admission of those who come for an interview. When a person comes in the morning, the most important thing that we want to test for is, and I'm sharing this insight with you, and it's in the book, because the book was designed to be a full document on how to run a banking institution successfully. And I'm very happy that all of you are reading it, because inshallah, God willing, you will be one of those who will be running branches, and the RF banking will be a big thing for all of us. The most important thing we want to test for is this a candidate that is a morning candidate, or a candidate that spends his time doing things all night long, playing cards, having fun, enjoying life, and then he just comes to work barely at 9 o'clock, and he thinks that he's doing the organization a favor by coming at 9 and sitting down, and when the time gets to be 5 exactly, he rushes out or she rushes out. So we want to make sure that this is a person who is a morning person. So we start the interview at 8 o'clock in the morning. Not only that, but we also want to make sure that the candidate knows that regardless how high you are a servant. You are a servant of the organization. You are a servant of people. And the way we express that is that the person, the executive that's in charge, does not call a person to bring coffee to the candidate. He himself goes out, prepares the coffee, prepares the tea, brings it over in a humble way, because this is a reflection of you and the kind of family they are joining. And let me tell you about candidates, and those of you who are old and have children, they want to make sure that when their son or daughter find a future partner, they want to make sure that they know the family of this partner and ask, is this the family that I want to join hands with so we can have a wonderful future? If you are a young lady or a young man who are not married yet, and you met the person that you want to continue on your life for the rest of your life as your husband or your wife, you want to know him, you want to know his family. Because it's not only the person, but it is the family that gives you the background and the depth of information. And that is what we want the candidate to do. So we break the interview into two pieces. The first one is the front end of the interview, which is usually an hour or an hour and a half. If it happens to be me who's doing the interview, then I break the interview in two pieces on who we are. What do we stand for? What is our organization? What makes us unique? What is the history of our organization? And then what we do, we sit down and tell them about the dreams of the future. And this is the time when we invite the person to sip their coffee, feel comfortable, sit down, relax in a session that is like a family session. And then we go then to the next step, and that is the candidate to tell us about their experience. And when we go through the experience, we really are detailed, we are thorough, we are very, very particular. We don't take general answers. We start from high school. We want to know what courses the candidate took in high school, what grades they have achieved in high school, what courses they liked and what courses they didn't like in high school. And whatever we do in high school, we go step by step in the future in the university, because this will give you an insight, a trip in the head of that candidate. Then you will know who this candidate is and if this is the candidate that you want to add to your family or not. If this candidate fits, then we'll continue on the interview. If he or she doesn't fit, we'll hand them over to another person and we'll say goodbye. It was nice meeting you. Now, the interview process then continues on, and every member of the team meets the candidate, be it at La Riva or at the Bank of Whittier. And we tell the candidate to ask the team members, the family members, any question you have. And then at the end of the interview, I personally go to every family member and ask them, what do you think of the candidate? Because your feedback is very important, because you are a member of the family, and then we rely on the candidate. What are we looking for? We look for people who are truthful, and I tell them right away that when, every candidate who comes to work for the organization says, what position do you have available? We tell people we don't have available positions. We have an opening for a new member of our family, and then you can be assigned depending on your capability. And we can teach banking, we can teach adding and subtracting, we can teach everything, but there are two things we cannot teach. And please remember those in your life. When you choose a husband or a wife, when you choose a husband or wife for your daughter or your son, when you choose a partner, there are two things you cannot teach. Saying the truth. You cannot deal with a liar and hope that he will change his habits. Saying the truth and honoring the trust. Al-khiyanat wal-kadib. These are the two traits that cannot be changed. They come with the package. And that's what we look for during the interview, all the way through the interview, which lasts for at least 4 to 6 hours. And I get the feedback that many of the candidates have never been in an interview like this, because we take it very seriously. We look for truthfulness. We look for high integrity. We look for honesty. We look for reliability. We look for dependability. Why dependability? Because we would like to group people to run the operation on their own. Then we can run other operations. Then we can start other operations. Then we can grow. People are not reliable, are not dependable. People who like to spend their nights enjoying life, that's fine. That's fine. You can enjoy life. Congratulations. But you will never be part of the team. You will never be reliable. We cannot depend on you. And that's why we are very particular about the people that we deal. We're looking for hard workers. We're looking for team players. We're looking for innovators, people who can come up with new ideas that can present things that are unique to the Bank of Whittier. Now we look at the balance sheet of the bank. Now, people say, well, are you running this bank riba-free? What's unique about it? I say, well, you don't need to cover it with a certain color to make it riba-free. What's unique about it is your philosophy and your mentality of looking at the balance sheet. On the liabilities, for those of you who have not looked at a balance sheet for a bank, the liabilities are things that the bank is liable for. What are we liable for? We are liable for the deposits of our customers. Customer brings in $100,000, it is a liability against me because the customer is going to come and say, well, I want my money. That is a liability. So there are two main liabilities for a bank, and that is the type of accounts a customer comes and opens in general. If a customer comes and says, I want to open a checking account, which is called in the banking lingo a demand deposit account. Look at the words used to define the account. Demand, which means it is available upon demand, deposit account. Why it is important to call it demand? Because when a customer brings you this money, it is really looked upon as a trust with you. So I'll go to my banker, Bill Stillwell, and I say, Bill, I have $100,000. I want to open a bank account with you. And Bill will ask me, what kind of bank account? I tell him, I want this money to be available on demand. So we look at this in RF banking as a trust account. This is an amana account. This is an account that cannot be invested in anything. And that's why, if you notice, in the balance sheet, and I never talked about this, but this is the time to talk about it. In the balance sheet of an RF bank, the demand deposit account usually is somewhere between 15 to 20% of your total deposits. You will find that the loan to deposit ratio usually is not higher than 80%, 80 to 85%. And the reason for that is when a person brings you a demand deposit account, he implicitly is telling you, you cannot invest this money. This money is to be kept available to me anytime I ask for it. And that is your honor, that is your promise to your customers. The second type of deposit in general are deposits which are income generating. And these are, of course, the certificate deposit accounts or the money market accounts or the income generating accounts. When a customer brings you this money expecting an income, he's telling you that, yes, I am giving you my implicit approval that you can invest this money so I can get an income out of it while the money is being parked. And that is the CD accounts. Now, in this particular instance, we have to balance between two things. The United States government, through the lending law, requires you to pronounce and advertise the interest on your certificate of deposits. So we have chosen to satisfy this law and at the same time not violate the requirements of the Judeo-Christian Islamic law. So we go 3-month, 6-month, and 12-month CDs. And when we announce the rate, we base it on the expected profitability from the loan portfolio within what we can predict in the future. And then it would reset afterwards. Is that clear or is it confusing?
I have one question, Dr. Aha. Where would you put saving account? Now, demand account
same thing.
Supposedly is the checking account, isn't it?
The same thing. The minute you put a savings account, anytime a customer is expecting an income, it becomes an investment account. You understand?
Saving account will be withdrawn anytime you want. Yeah, it's like demand.
Yes, but then it is your responsibility as an RF banker to project the behavior of this customer and how often this money is withdrawn and so on and so forth. and you have to allow reserves for these. You know, the banking industry, it's glamorous, but it's a very sophisticated thing, and that is something that you have to allow for. But anytime a customer says, I want income, he is giving you his tacit implied approval that you can use this money for investment purposes. Anytime a customer tells you, I want a checking account, a demand deposit account, he's telling you, you cannot invest this money is actually done. Now, the question is, how can you look at demand deposits? Well, we can charge the depositor money, which is what we call banking fee, $5, $10 a month to maintain the account. Or you can also, if your bank is flourishing and you want to say thank you for those who deposit the money with you, you can give them what we call a gift at the end of every quarter or at the end of every year. I hope that one day we'll reach this so we can give a unilateral gift from the Bank of Whittier to our depositors, and on that day you will attract a lot of people to do business with you. Any other questions? Okay, we go to equity. Now, as you know, equity is the shareholders' capital where the shareholders are putting in. When you think of your lending activity, the first bucket to dip in for highest risk investments is the bucket of your equity, because the shareholders are putting their money as the highest exposed risk in the operation. You don't take the money of the demand deposit accounts and risk it. You don't take the money of the security deposits and risk it while you are protecting the equity of your shareholders. You first expose the equity of the shareholders. In your mind, this is in your mind. I know that when our CPA Richardson company come in and audit our financial statement, you don't think this way. But me as an RF banker looking at the financial statement, this is how I look at it. I look at, if our capital is $9 million, then I want to make sure that my highest risk part of the portfolio is this $9 million, and it goes lower and lower. The next slide has to do with the assets, and the assets is the loan portfolio that you keep putting together, and then under special circumstances, when you really are pushed and you have a lot of liquidity, you may be prompted to invest in other banks' CD, and we do that because we have a lot of liquidity. But we want to make sure that the income that comes from this CD investments is only used to cover the expenses of the bank, not used to distribute profits, to cover the allowance for losses in the bank, and so on. And one of the most important aspects of what we do is that we are an asset-based finance house or a finance bank. You have to have an asset. Unsecured lending is not allowed. Now, I want to talk about miscellaneous aspects of our operation. How about selling loan servicing? Like, for instance, as you know, most banks, actually all mortgage agreements, they have a clause which says that the purchaser or the customer allows the bank or American Finance House to sell the loan servicing to outside organizations. I'm sure those of you who finance their homes, they might have gotten a letter from the bank they finance with saying that we have sold the servicing to whatever bank. And I know that Guidance is selling the servicing to U.S. Bank, right, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. So we don't sell servicing. We keep the servicing, because I use the metaphor of getting married and having a baby and then selling that baby for somebody to take care of him, nursing him and feeding him and taking care of him. Your loan is your baby, and you cannot sell it to another organization to take care of it. What is the advantage? The advantage is that if you have originated the loan, then you know the people that are involved in the loan. Then if a customer has a problem, he will talk to Maria Abdullahi, you talk to Endar, you talk to Zakia, talk to Mustafa, talk to Mike Abdulati, talk to Said Rahman, talk to Alexandra Dang, talk to Daniel, talk to Matthew, and so on and so forth. The next is the social deposits, and I think we talked about that. We want to make sure that these sources are clean and not questionable. And then we do the matching between CDs and the loan portfolio. And then the book has a big section on risk management in chapter 12. I will let you read it. And now I want to conclude with credit cards. Now, when you read the history of credit cards, the plastic that everybody is using, and everybody has maybe from 4 to 10 credit cards in his wallet. Now, I remember in 1970 and 71, when American Express used to be the least and only credit card, their advertising used to be getting a card is a privilege. And it used to be called charge cards. Now, please pay attention to the difference between the two words. In the old days, it used to be charge card. What is a charge card? You go out at JCPenney's and you buy a suit and you charge it such that you have the intention of paying it as soon as possible. Why? Because the idea then was that instead of carrying a lot of money in your pocket, instead of going to a shop and you don't have enough money and there were no ATM machines at the time, then you can use a plastic that can charge things with it. And the agreement was that you pay as soon as possible or within a month, and there will be no interest. And the credit card company made the income on a fee that they charged the different merchants. Now, Visa came along and MasterCard came along, and they changed the name from charge card to a credit card. And this is the most dangerous thing that ever happened in the United States. Because now the credit card companies became issuers of money. They participated in the process of printing money. You remember in chapter 5 how money is printed by banks? Remember the multiplier effect of banks? Now, not only banks are doing multiplier effects, but now the credit cards are doing the multiplier effect. So people use their credit cards not for charge purposes, but for borrowing purposes. If you talk to Alex or Daniel Hendon, who do the analysis, you will find people, when we did the last analysis, Daniel, the credit card account was what, 100,000 that we need to pay off?
Yes, sir.
We had a case where a prominent person had an account balance with a credit card at $100,000. And people are using credit cards as a means to borrow money. And they don't know what that means. It means that their credit is hampered. It means that they are paying a much higher interest rate and so on and so forth. And you all know the deal. But there are two things I want you to tell all of your friends, if you can promise me, please. And it's not known in public, and I use it in all of my presentations. The reason for people credit to go lower are non-payment of two types of bills. Your cellular phone bill and your medical bill. Please, for God's sake, when you get a cellular phone bill, pay it as soon as possible. If you want to dispute it, but pay it. Because when you pay it to a department. When you dispute it, you dispute it in another department, and they will give you credit for it. Especially cell phones, they make a lot of money. And they will give you instant credit. But do not fight them out and pump your head against the wall and say, I'm not going to pay him, I'm not going to pay him. Guess what? The other department, which does the credits, they will send a report to you. So you will find your credit goes down 10, 15, 25 points just because you played loggerheads with the cell phone. On the medical bills, this is really the funniest. And Dan and Alex can attest to that. Who do not pay the medical bills the most? Daniel?
Doctors.
Medical doctors. It's an amazing thing. Medical doctors, you know, any loan that you don't pay will create a bad thing on the credit rating. That's obvious. But I'm talking about you can pay your loans on time. You can pay every loan on time, and you have these two little problems. I promise your rating will go down from 750 to 625, 630. Now, as Daniel said, who are the ones who don't pay their medical bills? Medical doctors. Why? Because they know. Say, well, I'm not going to pay him. This guy is taking advantage of me. And guess what? Their credit goes down. And I tell doctors, please, doctors, don't play loggerheads with your friends, the doctors. Pay your bills to the doctors. Pay your bills in the hospitals. If you want to dispute, you dispute. I want to conclude with, I don't know if you noticed it or not, but on the front page of the Bank of Whittier, you know, you really should be proud of the operations that you're all associated with. We are really unique. On the front page of the Bank of Whittier website, under credit cards, we have this following statement written in red. Please remember that a charge card should be used to make your shopping and payment needs easier. It is a facility and not a means of borrowing money. We strongly advise our clients and users of charge cards, and notice we do not use credit cards, we use charge cards, to make their payments in full as soon as they receive their statements in order to avoid paying interest. And to make sure that we do not take interest, we do not process the credit card department. The credit card is given to an outside bank, so if there is a need to charge people interest, they can do it without us be participants in it. When we put this on the front page, the OCC called me personally, and they said we have never seen a bank that discourages their customers from using the credit cards, because this is a major source of income for the credit cards. And this is a commendation to the work that you're doing. Visa and MasterCard is nothing but a marketing organization and plastic production. The whole idea is to create.
Are they separate companies? I mean, you know.
They are companies that distribute cars. There are companies selling candies. There are companies that distribute it. But the loan that is created belongs to Chase, belongs to Capital One, belongs to Bank of America, because the Bank of America and Chase and Citi and everything, they have cash, they want to invest, they have to increase the loan portfolio. And I've not seen the new numbers, but 2 years ago, 60% of the profits of the major banks came from fees charged on credit cards and profits made in the speculation markets. The power of MasterCard and Visa are two things: their marketing abilities and their computer systems, which allow them to keep track of all of your charges anywhere in the world. It's the network that they are proud of.